What's up, my dudes? No Man's Sky on the PS5. Okay, so this has been a, pretty big speculation. I'm certainly not the first person to bring up this whole sort of idea here about the game potentially being on a PS5 and all that. And interestingly enough, if you saw the recent No Man's Sky Origins interview by IGN, where Sean Murray went in there and he mentioned things like, if I'm not mistaken, I think he mentioned that they're still going to be doing something else with No Man's Sky in 2020, kind of hinting at something, but he didn't really come out and say it. And the only thing I can really think of when, we're this close to the end of the year, you got the PlayStation 5 coming out. That's really the only thing I can think that he would have meant with that, right? I just couldn't see him doing some sort of other kind of update with the game. And, No Man's Sky this whole time, it originated on the PlayStation 4. That's where it was before it was on any other platform. So they've got deep connections with Sony and PlayStation and all that. And it would only make sense, a game like this having its own PlayStation 5 port, all that would just make sense. So this is going to be a really interesting thing, especially with this whole Origins variation update and all that. That'll be really cool to see the game on, when you're playing on a console, it's a lot easier to play on a TV. A lot of times you already have a console naturally hooked up to a TV. And I just feel like No Man's Sky is one of those games. It's just more fun to play on a TV, to me. I mean, at least that's always been the way it's been for me. So, and that's the cool aspect of it is all these different updates. If you guys have seen, especially with this Origins update, there was a whole part of the update that was specifically, a improvement to the ultra graphical setting on PC only, right? So it was kind of one of those things that you just basically weren't going to be able to experience that part of the update if you were playing the game on any other kind of platform, right? And you can see it on the features page of the Origins update. They've apparently added like massive improvements to the way grass loads off in the distance, specifically on the ultra graphics on the PC version of the game. I mean, it definitely looked like a drastic change. So we're starting to kind of get to that point where they're starting to make these like PC only graphical improvements to No Man's Sky. So, it's always kind of been that PlayStation 4 kind of game, right, this whole time. And I don't really think PC has been that drastically. Obviously, you can get a, higher field of view and all these other things. And with PS4 Pro, it's obviously going to be running better and things like that, especially if you're doing the whole, virtual reality and things like that. But I just think this is one of those games that just needs to have a PlayStation 5 port, right? It just needs it, like, straight up. This is just one of those games. I don't know, of all the kind of games out there, this is one of those I think really needs to be put on a PlayStation 5. And like I say, it's already so closely integrated with all the stuff, with it, starting on a PlayStation 4, it would just seem like that would all make sense. And who knows, this whole time they've been kind of building the game around the PlayStation 4 and then sort of porting it over to the PC and shit like that. So maybe there was some kind of limitations to the PlayStation 4. Obviously, there was some, so maybe they can open up, certain other aspects of the game if they put it on a PlayStation 5. That would be super interesting. Not just graphical improvements, but, actual procedural generation improvements potentially, or like more base building improvements and certain things like that. I'm not really sure, being able to find ways to expand that more on a PlayStation 5 more than what you could have done on a PlayStation 4, something along those lines. So I'm not really, 100% sure on all that, but we may see some, actual gameplay improvements if it gets put on a PlayStation 5, but we'll see, kind of how that all goes down. But it'd be cool if they could do that, because that would be like a whole nother kind of release for the game, because especially with this Origins update, I mean, it definitely is a very different game than it was back in 2016. The base building, vehicles, variation, It's got a lot of different stuff to it now than what it had back then. So I don't know. Definitely let me know down in the comments what you guys think. The possibility of the game getting put on a PlayStation 5, it would not shock me in the slightest to see here in like another month or two, No Man's Sky PlayStation 5 launch, right? Like, I just feel like that, basically just the way Sean Murray kind of worded that in that recent Origins IGN interview, that just sounded to me like that's what it was going to be, right? It just, everything, the way they made that sound just seemed like that's what it was going to be. So we'll just have to wait and see, but I think it'll be awesome. Just to that fact that, you know, even if you have No Man's Sky on the PC, it's obviously going to look better, and they're making certain aspects of it look better on the PC and things like that. Man, they have really improved on that, you know, fish schooling, fish animation to the game. These fish look so much more believable than what the the underwater creatures looked like before this Origins update. That is a massive improvement to that side of it. That looks really good, dude. That's awesome. So, man, I just can't get over that. That is really cool. Love when they make those animation improvements to the creatures. But yeah, so we'll see how that, affects the game when it does come out on a PlayStation 5. I think that'll be awesome for a lot of people that, like I say, you might have the game on PC, and it's still a fun game to play on the PC, right? I think you got, like, slightly bigger amounts of people you can play with in multiplayer, if I'm not mistaken, on the PC version than you can on the PlayStation version. So there are a few advantages to playing the game on a PC, right? So if they could sort of bridge that gap a little bit with having the game on a PlayStation 5, right? So you still get that No Man's Sky console plugged into a TV experience, but it's got a lot of the same level of features that you would have in the game on the PC version, like the more people in multiplayer, the, better graphical type stuff, the better distance, view distance, LOD, grass at a distance. If you get all those kind of improvements, but still on that console, No Man's Sky, kind of more like what the game was supposed to be. I feel like this game was just meant to be played on a TV. I don't know. That's just me. I just feel like everything about this game, it's a whole different experience playing this thing on a TV. If you've only had this game on PC and you only play it on a standard monitor, you really should try playing this game on a, turn the lights off, sit down, fly to a whole new alien world in a, a big TV, got your PlayStation plugged into a big TV, all the lights are off in the house. It really does give you a whole different experience when you're playing the game like that than it does on a, a standard PC monitor, right? There's just certain games out there I feel like are more made for a TV, and this is certainly one of them. So I think the PlayStation 5 has a lot of, cool reasons to why they would want to do that. And like I say, the game being so different now, you would imagine that a lot of people would actually buy this game for a PlayStation 5, kind of being that, with all the updates to the game and stuff, they could definitely kind of play that as a new game, because it definitely is a new game compared to what it used to be. So you would just imagine they would do this. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't do this. I mean, I really don't know why they would not do this. And who knows, maybe the VR on the PlayStation 5 would run a lot better and, look a lot better for No Man's Sky. So that may be a whole nother aspect to it as well. But then that might open up the doors to where they can start doing a lot more stuff with their graphical, visual, and even gameplay enhancements to the game, and not feel like they are so stuck behind in the, the old generation PlayStation era in their PlayStation 4 era, and they're having to make everything work for that. Maybe this could open up their eyes a little bit to what more things they could do with the game, because this game is just ever evolving, I feel like No Man's Sky is going to kind of be one of those games, kind of like Minecraft and a lot of these other games. They just kind of go on forever. They don't ever really totally die out, especially with the updates that free updates that they're continuing to do to No Man's Sky. I think this game's going to keep on going. It's just going to get better and better and better. And here in another 5 or 10 years, you're still going to have No Man's Sky around, and it's going to be five or 10 times the game that it is right now. So that would only make sense that you would naturally progress that to the next console, right? It's just sort of all in how they, like, if they do come out with a PlayStation 5 version and they really start updating it in a certain way, like, how is that going to affect the PlayStation people that still have it on PlayStation 4, right, and Xbox One? You'd imagine maybe it would come out on Xbox Series X, right? I think the first thing it would come out on is PlayStation 5 for obvious reasons, because, like I say, No Man's Sky is just so heavily based in the PlayStation Sony realm. Maybe one day it would come out on the Xbox Series X, right? You would imagine that as well. But of all the games I could imagine sort of being like cross-generation games and like moving to the next generation, coming out with a whole nother game, you know, a whole nother like basically next-gen version of the game, No Man's Sky is definitely one of those games. Like, I just feel like it is one of those games you just want a better visual, you know, because that plays into the whole exploration of the game and a lot of aspects to the game. So, and it, like I say, it's one of them games that's going to last a long time, it seems like. So you would just imagine, even if it doesn't have like a true enough, you know, quote-unquote next-gen version of it, it's certainly going to be like, you know, backwards compatible. People be playing, you know, No Man's Sky off of the PlayStation 5 store, or they're going to be playing like the PlayStation 4 version of it on the PlayStation 5. There's going to be a lot of people that would be doing that anyways, because, you know, once you go to the PlayStation 5, you're going to kind of throw away, at least a lot of people won't really be playing their PlayStation 4 anymore, and a lot of people are still going to want to play No Man's Sky. So, but I certainly think it is worth them making an actual PlayStation 5, you know, updated version of the game. I feel like a lot of people would actually buy into that, so that, you know, a lot of the console players would get, you know, some of these more next generation PC level, you know, a lot of the PC improvements graphically, and, you know, more players in multiplayer and all that these PC guys have been getting in No Man's Sky for the past like year or two in the game. I think there's a lot of console players and a lot of people that want to be able to experience that while playing on a console and playing the game, you know, on a TV and things like that. I certainly think it's worth it. And even if it's not like full AAA priced, maybe it's like half priced or something, I think the game still is $60 on Steam. I know they've got a lot of different deals for the game. They had it half price for, you know, with this Origins update. I know that for a fact. So I know there's been a lot of deals for the game, but I think if like you went to go out and buy No Man's Sky, it still is $60. So maybe they would make it $60. I don't know. I still think there would be a lot of people that would look into purchasing that. And knowing Sean Murray and Hello Games, they would make it cool, you know. They would probably add in like different, you know, package deals, probably like a full-blown like new kind of art book, or, you know, they would probably add in a lot of cool stuff to a actual PlayStation 5 version of No Man's Sky. So either way, just wanted to come out here and make this video. I certainly think they're going to make a PlayStation 5 version of this game very soon. I don't think that would be hard for them to do at all. All of the structure of the game is kind of made within the PlayStation anyways, you know, the kind of the PlayStation 4 engine anyways, then it's ported to everything else basically. So you'd imagine that would be very easy for them to do. And I just feel like No Man's Sky kind of gets lost a little bit nowadays in the abyss because of it coming out all the way back in 2016 and being at such an early state. I feel like a lot of people kind of wrote the game off. So it needs, you know, with all the updates that they've came out with and stuff, it really does need that sort of, you know, next-gen push and being put on newer platforms and, you know, all that kind of stuff to really push the game further, right? I think that's a really important thing for No Man's Sky at this point. And like I say, this will open up the doors. I don't know. It would be weird to have it to a point to where it's like the PlayStation 4 version of it is like you can't get the same stuff that you'd have in the PlayStation 5 version. That would be weird if it ever got to that point. I don't know if it ever will, but, you know, and maybe if like you already own the game on PlayStation 4, maybe it's like you get it for half price for the PlayStation 5. Maybe there's like a cool deal they could work out for that. And maybe it's like the updates get to a certain point to where they just kind of cut it off for the PlayStation 4. So then all the future updates is like you gotta have it on PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X or the PC to be able to get that next update, right? So that they don't kind of get themselves in a in a development corner to where they feel like they're still having to develop everything around the PlayStation 4 version of it, you know, an older generation of it. Maybe they have a way to where they can really start advancing those graphics and really start advancing some of these different elements, you know, have even more people in multiplayer than they can have right now. You know, they could advance a lot of things if they really start to truly push it to next gen, versus just kind of keeping it where everything is the same on the old gen and the new gen. I really hope they push everything to the next gen, right? So we'll see if they end up doing that. But yeah, that's kind of my opinions on it. I'm definitely getting back into the game more now than I was before. So that's really cool. I think they could do, you know, this game is already so crazy with how much, 16 quintillion life-size planets, and it's all saved locally on your freaking PlayStation. It's like the whole entire game is, you know, I don't even know how many megabytes. I don't even know if it's a gigabyte to download this game, right? And there's literally more walkable space in this game than every single other game that's ever came out in the history of video games combined. And so they've got like a really cool system of the game. Doesn't take a lot of memory and things like that. So they already have a lot of really cool, like, you know, actual, like, technical, you know, super advanced technical things with the way this game is designed. So you could just imagine what they could do with this game on an actual next-gen console and not being so confined to making everything around the old generation. You could just imagine what all they could do with a true next-level, you know, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and then obviously continuing to, you know, do that with PC, right? Just imagine what they could do with that. I mean, it could be like a whole nother level, right? So we'll see if they end up doing that. But either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dude.